Let's talk about routines. The routines that a writer needs to establish in order to be able to write regularly. One of Neil Gaiman's rules for writers, the first, is write. If you don't write, nothing will happen. If you want to be a writer, then you have to write on a regular basis. And I have always found this extremely difficult. Hi, my name is John and I am recently retired and recently started on a quest to become a published author. These videos document my progress or lack thereof, and if you want to encourage me, then please subscribe. I don't know about you, but for years I believed that the only way to write was to be inspired. Writing under any other circumstances wasn't really creative writing. Yet many established writers, when you ask them, will laugh at that. Some of them will laugh in a gentle way and say, yes, inspiration is fantastic when it comes. Others may laugh in a more derisive fashion and tell you that in their experience inspiration doesn't really have an awful lot to do with what they write. You see, inspiration doesn't strike on a regular schedule. It comes when it comes, if it comes, out of the blue. I think my job as an author is to be ready for it, to be in position, so to speak. And that means to be sitting somewhere on a regular basis with a pen in hand and a notebook in front of me, or a tablet or a computer or a typewriter or a dictaphone or, I don't know, a slab of wet clay and a pointy stick. Anything just to be ready. And while I'm waiting, well, I might as well use the time by writing something. Perhaps by writing I will lure inspiration in. Perhaps it's a bit like baiting a hook and waiting for the fish to bite. Writing is 90% perspiration and at most 10% inspiration. That is a quote that I have for years attributed to the English author John Galsworthy, he of Forsyte Saga, early 20th century. Trawling on the internet just now, I have discovered that in fact, of course, it is attributed to the American inventor Edison. And he wasn't talking about creative writing, he was talking about genius. But regardless of who said it and regardless of what they were intending to talk about, it's applicable to the writing situation, it's applicable to creative writing. You have to write regularly, you have to perspire, and if your inspiration drops in, well, welcome it, use it, but don't expect it to show up for the working day. If you're going to be in a position to write regularly, then where are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? I think every writer is going to have to find their own space and their own time. You can't buy another writer's routine wholesale, though I am sure it can be fun to try it out. There are several writer videographers on YouTube who have made videos along the lines of, I tried writing like, insert the name of a famous author here, for a week. And this is what happened. A year ago, as I was coming up on my retirement, I looked at my day and my situation and I decided, as I write best in the mornings, it's in the mornings I should write. I was generally waking at 6 or 7 o'clock, so I decided to get up at 5, which would give me an hour in which I could write before the house woke up. For 2 weeks, when the alarm went off, I was grumpy and I was dull, but I forced myself up. I forced myself to go out to the kitchen, I made myself my morning cup of tea, and I sat at the kitchen table with my notebook and my pen, and I wrote. Well, sometimes I wrote, sometimes I just sat and I thought about writing, but I didn't allow myself to do anything else. There was no news, there was no doom scrolling, there was no YouTube. I wrote or I sat. It was a start. In the 3rd week, I found I was waking up before the alarm went off, and that has continued. For 6 months, I set the alarm to go off every morning at 5, and most mornings I woke up before it sounded. Then, in the autumn, I got into the habit of switching the alarm off before I went to bed, and I still woke up at 4:40 or 4:50. This has continued. Now I rarely set the alarm at all. Waking before 5 doesn't work every time, to be sure, especially if I didn't get to bed before midnight, but it works well enough. I don't often wake with a clear idea of what I want to write. If I do, that's a bonus. Usually I free write. That is to say, I write anything that comes into my head, half-remembered fragments of dreams, diary notes of events from the day before, notes about the book I just finished reading, lists. Sometimes they are lists of things I need to write, things I ought to write. Sometimes they are changes I need to make to a text I'm working on. Sometimes they're just shopping lists. Sometimes I write on prompts from social media channels or websites that I follow. Currently, I have a printed list of 31 poetry writing prompts to look at from the British Poetry Society, culled from their Instagram account during April. Sometimes I write drafts of letters, and sometimes I write letters to myself about problems I'm having with whatever the work in progress is. Sometimes I write dialogues between some of my characters, and at other times I ask my characters what they think is going on in the story in progress. And sometimes I am surprised by their answers. And sometimes I don't write, but I draw maps, diagrams, graphs even. I do this for an hour or more, and very occasionally, in the middle of all of this, I can get myself to a stage where I feel inspired. So that's my early morning routine. It's not the only routine I follow, but it's the foundation of my writing day. It sets me up. What's your routine? How do you set yourself up for your writing day? How do you ensure that you are ready for the moment when inspiration strikes? Perhaps you can share in the comments. If you like this video, you can give me a thumbs up, and maybe we'll meet again in the near future. But for now, cheerio.